Welcome, everyone, to the May version of the Food for Thought series. The League's theme this month is on teamwork. And in a fitting fashion, we've got a lineup of presenters talking about the various approaches to building resilience and efficiency. And so we're excited to bring this panel to you all today. I'll introduce our guests here in a moment, but before we get started, let's go ahead and launch the first poll. To get a sense of folks that have joined us today, how familiar they are with energy codes. Andrea, if you could launch that poll.
Yeah, and thanks for filling that out. It just gives us a sense of who's in the room. I know we probably have a variety of different people in local governments. So you'll learn a little bit more about this project we'll be presenting on and the different aspects of energy codes and resilient and efficient buildings. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Go ahead and close that poll. Thanks for filling that out. So it looks like many of you are unfamiliar and a handful somewhat familiar. So you've come to the right place today, I believe, for us to learn a little bit more about building energy codes and energy efficiency opportunities. So today lined up, we've got a group of nonprofits and local governments that have come together, teaming around identifying strategies to make buildings more resilient and efficient, and to provide more awareness and technical assistance for state and local officials about building codes. So today we've got representatives from Slipstream, the Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition, and Clean Wisconsin to learn more about their efforts to date and to talk a little bit about what's next. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to our lead panelist, and she will queue up the additional presenters as we work through today's program. Again, thanks for joining us for the Food for Thought, and we'll get started with the program. Allison, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you. I'm just getting my screens all set up and you can see the presentation there. Great. Okay, I'll go into presentation mode.
You could just, there you go. Thank you.
There we go. Okay. Yeah, Zach, thank you. And Andrea, thank you so much for having us today. We're excited to talk about local governments collaborating for resilient and efficient buildings. Um, and as Zach noted, I have several of my teammates here. I'm going to just go ahead and do a quick overview of the agenda. So we'll do some quick intros so you know who's talking to you. We'll do a brief overview of the Resilient and Efficient Codes implementation project. That's kind of the umbrella that everything is under here. Then we'll talk about a few different aspects of that. So our Resilient and Efficient Buildings Municipal Support Program, including how we're working together to that teamwork theme, and some support and resources that we're providing. Then we'll get into building codes and provide some updates there. So the status of the current building codes, we'll talk about a statewide baseline study that's being conducted right now, and then also some support and resources being offered there as well to local governments and others. And then we'll have time as well for questions and discussions if anyone has any follow-ups for us. Yeah, so some quick introductions. I'm just going to go by organization here. Note that we're also partnering with MIA, the Midwest Energy Efficiency Alliance, and New Buildings Institute. So they're working on different aspects of the project. But today we've got Slipstream, Clean Wisconsin, and Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition. So first, I'm going to hand it over to the Slipstream folks for you to just give a quick introduction of yourself.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is John Kroll, building science researcher here at Slipstream.
And I'm Jeanette Sachs, Director of Research at Slipstream. And for those of you who may not know us, Slipstream is a nonprofit information technology solutions, marriage, education training, financing.
Thanks, Jeanette. And then let's go over to Clean Wisconsin. We have Matt.
Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Orrin. I'm the Stakeholder Engagement Manager at Clean Wisconsin, primarily working on this building efficiency and energy codes work right now.
Great, thanks, Matt. And I'm Allison Carlson. I'm the Executive Director at Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition. We've got 28 member local governments across the state, including a few I see on the line right now too, which is great. So I'll hand it over to my colleague Hussein now.
Hi everyone, I'm Hussein Mahmood and I'm the Energy and Sustainability Advisor at Wisconsin Local Government Coalition.
Great, thank you, Hussein. Okay, and then I know Andrea, if you'd like to launch that other poll about energy efficiency, you could do that. But we just had a quick poll here, wondering, if you think about energy efficiency opportunities when you make building related decisions, maybe we'll give folks a moment just to fill that out. That'll be the topic that we'll kind of be launching into here in a moment with our municipal support program. So we'll just give folks maybe 30 seconds or so to fill that out, and then Zach or Andrew, maybe you could let us know what the poll results are when we've got a good contingent of folks that have been able to respond to it.
Sure. Looks like we have an okay number of responses, so I'll close that in 3, 2, 1, and I'll share them. They should be showing up.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Andrea. So it looks like the majority, about 56%, they think about it sometimes when they're making building related decisions, 33% always, which is great, a full third. And then 11% are never. It's just not something perhaps that comes to mind when you're making those different decisions. So great, that's a good mix. I'm glad to see that more people are thinking about energy efficiency as they're making these decisions. But it's also good. We've got some folks that maybe we can, educate a little bit, make you aware of different things going on and opportunities. So like that opportunity to be able to increase awareness as well. So, yeah, first we'll provide an overview of the Resilient and Efficient Codes Implementation Program, which is, like I said, is that umbrella that everything's under. And I'm going to hand it over to John to go through the next couple slides.
Thanks, Allison, and welcome everyone. So the Resilient and Efficient Codes Implementation Project. So this is a federal grant provided through the Investment and Jobs Act, otherwise known as the BIL, the Bill Funding Act, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. And this is essentially, it just asks really a simple question, and that is, how can we make Wisconsin codes more efficient and affect everybody in Wisconsin in a beneficial way? So through this project, we have a few partners that we already went through: Slipstream, Clean Wisconsin, MIA, Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition with Allison, and the New Buildings Institute. But another project that we are very proud to be partnered with is the Wisconsin Department of Safety and Professional Services. The Wisconsin DSPS has many of the underlying concerns that are really brought by energy codes. So they connect with energy code officials across the state, with municipalities, with workers and builders in the field. So they are a link to the boots on the ground specifically across Wisconsin. We can go to the next slide. And if we do a little animation there, to answer our question, we simply have 3 buckets of how we are creating fair and resilient energy efficiency codes here in Wisconsin. So on the left, you can see some code support where we engage stakeholders. So we're asking questions, creating some interviews, just getting a sense of how everybody in the field across Wisconsin is interpreting our energy codes, if it's important, what they're thinking about it, how they can be impacted by them. And the other piece of that is that we're providing technical support to all of the agencies that are in this realm. So again, Wisconsin DSPS, the associated committees that involve the code update process, any workers in the field. So again, that's the code adoption support piece. The bottom piece, our bottom bucket, is our code compliance support. So this is where we're conducting a statewide baseline assessment of where buildings are being constructed at in regards of energy. So we're looking at multifamily, we're looking at commercial, we're looking at single family homes, and just to get a general sense of what are builders building to, how are they building them? Are they meeting codes that are higher? Are they consistently meeting the codes that are being enforced for our codes here in Wisconsin now? Where can they be improved? We can't really know that until we get a sense of where we're at right now. Some other pieces of that, we have developed a Energy Code Collaborative. This is a way to get all of stakeholders across the state of Wisconsin into the same room to provide feedback on what they're thinking about in regards to energy codes. How, they're asking how can they be improved? How can they impact them? What is the feedback that they want to get through? So we have those groups that have just started, and we'll talk about a little bit more. And then finally, we've also developed an Energy Code Technical Advisor Program. So this is a way for builders, for code officials, for designers, they can ask specific questions to one of these ECTA officials, get a response from them. And this is just more support through the DSPS system as if they're overloaded, if they just need assistance, this is where the ECTA program comes in. And then finally, we'll talk about the local government support piece, which is what Allison and Hussein are going to be talking about. But this is a way for the municipalities to engage in the code process as well, creating road development maps. What kind of things are they looking at, like TIF or zoning? So multiple ways to get input on this. If you're in the municipality government, there's ways for you to provide feedback and resources out there that Hussein and Allison will now talk about.
Great. Thank you, John. Yeah, so we'll get into that municipal support program, like John just mentioned. So first, I'll just provide a little bit of background, and then Hussein will get into some of the details and resources that we've been producing. But why a resilient and efficient buildings municipal support program? Well, there are multiple factors that kind of went into this, and that came up as we were speaking with local governments. So there is a big energy impact. Of buildings. When you look at kind of the whole pie chart, I guess, of energy use across the state, energy from buildings does take up a lot of that pie. So it is very important as municipalities are looking at how they can improve their energy use and decrease it on the municipal level, and then also at the community-wide level. And the building codes, of course, are statewide in Wisconsin, and John will get a little bit more into this. They haven't been updated in several years, and this can be a limiter for local governments if they're looking to make additional improvements. They, of course, can't, because it's statewide, you can't preempt those statewide codes with municipal ordinances that would kind of go beyond those building codes. So it's something to keep in mind, something to be aware of. And then also thinking about local government staff resources capacity. As we know, capacity and resources and staffing are limited at local governments, and I'm sure that you all feel that quite a bit for a variety of different reasons. So that kind of came into mind too as we were designing this program and how we would work together. And then also there's aging building stock. So there are aging buildings out there that are gonna need more improvements over time that might need to be replaced by new construction or come under significant remodeling. So what's guidance there that can be provided to be able to help local communities and local municipalities as they pursue this work. So how we work together. We have this team of nonprofits, some of them on the webinar today, of course, with you. We also have a team of local government advisors that take part in our meetings and help to kind of guide our work, direct it, and advise us, and provide different examples and inputs as we go. So at the beginning of the process, we did go through with them identifying different common areas of interest. What building codes are what they are right now. That's the assumption. That's what we're working with. But Beyond that, what are ways that local governments and their communities can still have an impact on making the buildings in their community more resilient and efficient? What are those strategies? So we identify those areas, and then also just kind of recognizing, each community is a little different, and that's okay, and that's to be expected. What one community needs is going to be a little different than what another community needs, based on demographics or building makeup or things like that. So acknowledging those differences and being able to offer different options then in the resources that we produce. So there's a little something there for everyone. So we have quarterly meetings, typically with our local government advisors and our project team, and those will be platforms to be able for municipalities to provide different examples. We usually have guest speakers from our group of local government advisors and beyond to just present on things that they're doing to increase the resiliency, efficiency of buildings, different policies they have or different strategies they're implementing. And then we'll take those and we'll produce different resources. And as well, Matt will get into a little bit later, we have one-on-one meetings too to support our communities that are participating. And you can see those participating municipalities on the right there. We have 15 cities right now. I believe this list is up to date, and a couple of villages. We do have more counties that participated as well, so it's different types of local governments. But that's our current list of participants. And I will then go to the next slide and pass it over to Hussein, who's going to talk a bit about the roadmap and some of the different resources.
Yeah, thanks, Alison. So I want to walk you through how this roadmap came together and how it's organized. To start, we surveyed our participating local governments, just like Alison mentioned, to understand what areas they were most interested in. And based on that feedback, we identified 6 key topics, what we call mile markers, that will go into this roadmap. And each mile marker basically it highlights an area where local governments in Wisconsin can make real progress, and that is without running into conflict with the statewide building codes. In regards to what should be included in these mile markers, it was not just surveys, but also by input from our local government advisors meeting. Alison also hinted towards this as well. We hold these meetings on quarterly basis, and we focus on each mile marker in these meetings. And different communities talk about their perspective and what they've been doing in their community and what they are doing in regard to this mile marker. Along with this, the team does research into finding tools and best practices that could go into a mile marker, and then of course the broader Wisconsin policy context. So as you can see, under each mile marker, we have developed resources that generally include overviews, fact sheets, brief on key issues, case studies from Wisconsin, and checklists to help local governments take the next step. On the right, you can see all those 6 mile markers we have for the roadmap, planning efforts that set stage for action, lead by example, tax incremental financing, zoning codes, community outreach and support, local policies that prioritize resilient and efficient buildings. Next slide. Yeah. So this is the web page we have where all the resources are developed under each mile marker, and they're listed. So this is a GIF. It's not working, I believe. It should start moving. Maybe if you click the screen, Alison, it will start working. It does not. There you go. It started, yeah. So this is basically a GIF of the website just to give you an overview of how it looks. As you can see, we have a mile marker under which you can see all the relevant resources are listed. So you can access this website with the link that's given here, and maybe we can put the link in the chat as well. Next slide. Yeah, so what I'll today do is just focus on few of the mile markers and what is included in them, starting with lead by example. This is basically what the local governments can do by themselves, just like it says lead by example, so others follow suit. We created 6 briefs under this mile marker, covering topics like benchmarking, solar, building upgrades, geothermal, and many more, as you can see on the left. But today I'll just focus on one of the brief, which is benchmarking. In this brief, we basically talk about energy benchmarking and encourage local governments to use Energy Start Portfolio Manager for internal benchmarking. This basically means like tracking energy use across municipal buildings uh, to spot trends or also look for opportunities to make any change. We recommend assigning a dedicated staff member to manage the process and using the data obviously like gathered through this portfolio manager to guide where building upgrades can make the most impact or it makes more sense. Uh, Based on the benchmarking, as you can see, like communities like Green Bay, they've set specific energy reduction goals. Green Bay actually used 2018 as a baseline, and now it aims to cut energy use by 20% by 2030. That you can see in the pie charts below as well. In this brief, we also point to programs like Focus on Energy and EIG, the Energy Innovation Grant, as good options to help fund staff and implementation of this. And for those served by multiple utilities, we suggest supplementing Portfolio Manager with tools like Energy Cap. This is something that Dane County has done. And if you look up the resource, we do have a case study on both Green Bay and Dane County, and that goes into detail how they did this. Next slide. Yeah, thank you. So another key area we heard a lot of interest in was tax incremental financing or TIF. Under this mile marker, we created two main resources. First one is a basic overview of, and it explains like how TIF actually works and how it works in Wisconsin, talking about Wisconsin law and all that. And the second one, we take a deeper dive into like how communities across Wisconsin and are aligning their TIF policies with their sustainability goals. And that's what I'll just focus on here. We've seen like some very creative strategies from the local governments. These include like requiring sustainability features in projects under TIF, letting developers use TIF funds for green upgrades like solar, EV chargers, and even using like climate goals to help decide which projects get approved. Some communities even ask like developers to include a sustainability plan as part of their TIF request. And others, they have been like focusing on having one-on-one conversations with the developers to figure out, okay, what's feasible and push for the best outcomes. A great example is of Stevens Point, which you can see here. In 2022, they adopted a TIF policy that now requires EV chargers in the eligible projects, especially in districts that are near highways. Projects with more than 100 parking stalls, they have to dedicate like at least 10% to EV. Although I do want to like point out here that developers can request exemptions if needed, which is very important because you don't want to incentivize the developers and push them away from the TIF districts. So you can see on the left the requirements for level 1 and level 2 charges based on what type of buildings there are. Yeah, next slide. Okay, so the last mile marker I'll just highlight today is about the local policies that prioritize resilience and efficiency. And under this mile marker, we developed two resources, financial resources summary and a government policy tracker. The financial resource summary basically, it has a list of grants and funding opportunities that communities can apply for. But I'll just focus on the government policy tracker, which is basically a database of local policies from across Wisconsin and Midwest. And these are organized by different topics: benchmarking, sustainable building ordinances, solar enabling policy, zoning, TIF, and many more. And for each policy, we include the jurisdiction, the type of ordinance, unique features or some implementation notes, when it was enacted, and the link to the full policy. For example, we give this Bayside passed an ordinance classifying solar as permitted accessory use, and Milwaukee recently adopted a benchmarking ordinance that will apply to large commercial and multifamily buildings starting in 2024. So as a community or a local government, if you are interested in learning or are planning to introduce a certain policy, you can use this government policy tracker that we have and select any topic and look at the policy that might be relevant to you. It's a great tool that basically lets our members learn from their peers and like find examples they can adapt locally. Next slide. Yeah, so basically that's a quick tour through the roadmap we're developing and few mile markers we have already worked on. Everything I mentioned is available on the website. And in terms of what we're doing next, we just completed the resources for zoning codes mile marker. You can see the screenshots on the right. Due to time constraints, obviously I cannot go over them but you can again like access them on the Wiki website. As I earlier mentioned, we have these local government advisors meeting, and we just had one 2 days ago where we focus on the mile marker 6 local policies that prioritize resilient and efficient buildings. And now we will just start working on developing resources under this mile marker. Next, we plan to hold like 2 more meetings where we will focus on the remaining mile markers, and eventually all of the mile markers and the roadmap would be complete. But as a side note, we will keep on updating the roadmap because we do consider it as a living document and like updating it on regular basis. Next slide.
Thanks,
Now
Hussein. I might
yeah.
actually, I think there may be some questions, some hands raised. So I'm wondering if we should pause here. Are there folks that have questions? Or maybe the hand just went down.
Just a note of housekeeping. If folks can throw their questions in the Q&A portion, I apologize, I didn't mention that on the front end. That way we capture the panelists see those questions. So it's the QA feature bottom of the screen.
Great, thank you, Zach. Okay, thank you, Hussein. I'll go to the next slide, and then I think we were going to have Matt go over some one-on-one outreach we're doing.
Great. Thanks, Allison, and thanks, Hussein. As Hussein mentioned, we have all of these resources that are available, and we have these local government advisors meetings that we're using to help support local governments. Another option is this one-on-one outreach that we are conducting. And the hope is to help support local governments who maybe find it hard to make the local government advisors meetings or don't know exactly how these resources can help them. So we are meeting one-on-one, or typically two team members will meet with the local government to help understand what their needs might be or their concerns might be around building efficiency, resilience, and sustainability topics. So far, we've met with 9 different local communities, and we've been working with them how these one-on-one outreach meetings typically work is that we'll have a 30-minute introductory meeting where we learn about a local government's needs and then and how the project team might be able to support that local government, and then have typically monthly cadence meetings to report back with that local government and see if there's anything new that we should be working on. Yeah, and just a couple examples of how we have been working, what sort of assistance we've been able to provide to local governments. Pretty closely associated with the roadmap that we're working on, we were able to recommend amendments to a zoning code draft of a local government to incorporate sustainability. Another request that we received was to provide guidance on regarding requiring EV readiness. A local government was a little bit concerned about how it might work, and we were able to collect resources and provide advice And then lastly, there was another local government that had heard that it's not feasible to have solar on metal roofs when in fact it's sometimes preferable to have a metal roof when you're putting in solar. So we were able to help them understand the impact of that metal roof and that they could install solar on a municipal building if they wanted to, even though it had a metal roof. So those are just some examples of the way that we're trying to be really responsive to folks and their specific needs, not just these broad concepts. So if you all are interested in understanding more about what you all can do or have any interest in support around efficiency or resiliency projects, please reach out to myself or Hussein to learn more about setting up a introductory meeting.
Great. Thank you, Matt. Yeah, and we've got contact information at the end of the slide deck too, that will be available to you as well. Excellent. So we'll move on to the next topic here regarding Wisconsin energy codes. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, John, to talk us through that.
Great, Allison. Thanks again. So we were talking about our three buckets of creating fair and resilient energy efficiency codes in Wisconsin. So we talked about the local government piece with Hussein, Allison, and Matt. So let's talk about the other two buckets. So we'll start with the code adoption support on the next slide. And that is just an instance where we are as a state here in Wisconsin with regards to our local code. So let's go to the next slide with the map. And that is on the left, we have our residential codes here in Wisconsin. This is a map essentially of the country and where we are in comparison to other parts of the country. So essentially, Wisconsin is on its 2009 version of the energy efficiency codes that are implemented nationally. Wisconsin is a little unique in that we have our UDC. So this is our Uniform Dwelling Code. So it's not really a one-to-one comparison, but the Department of Energy has identified it's essentially the 2009 version. And then on the right, we have our commercial buildings. And again, not necessarily a one-to-one comparison, but it's essentially describing it as a 2010. And we'll talk about what these processes mean of updating on the in the future. But so again, like Wisconsin is somewhat lagging behind some parts of the country. So again, how can this affect Wisconsin if we were to implement stronger codes? How can it make it more efficient, more cost effective, stronger, more resilient? Let's go to the next slide. This is a great slide because this is from the Department of Energy, and it really gives you an idea of how each code cycle reduces the energy usage for specific buildings. The blue line is essentially residential, so mainly single family homes. After each code cycle, you can see be somewhat of a drop in energy usage per building. And the red square indicates where Wisconsin is. So we're on the 2009 version. And you can kind of see a big jump to the 2012, which might be part of the reason why Wisconsin hasn't really gone to that phase yet. It is quite a big jump from the 2009 to the 2012, and we'll talk about some of the reasons why. And then on the commercial side too, we see there is some big jumps that might be hard for states to implement, but the benefits we can see in the forms of energy savings, more resilient buildings, perhaps health and safety. Those are all things that can be discussed. The IECC, which is the International Energy Conservation Code, just implemented the 2024 and are now discussing 2027. So fairly new, but again, we see those drops after every code cycle. Let's go to the next slide. When I was just talking about the UDC, the Uniform Dwelling Code, in Wisconsin, we have a specific process on how that is met. So this kind of helps with our commercial and residential on how the process works, especially from a municipality perspective. So how this starts is that the UDCC requests a scope statement. be published. So we had this published back in fall of 2024. And this has just now been implemented in the form of now it is open for discussion of the drafting new rules for the code cycle. So the UDC just had their first official code meeting last month in May, and it has one specifically tomorrow if anybody wants to follow along as well. So I think you can find that link to the agenda on the DSPS website. But if anyone wants to follow along, this is a way to see how these code discussions are being discussed. And this isn't just regarding energy. This is regarding everything specifically in the whole code cycle itself. So if I'm looking at that second line, the drafting new rule, it's a fairly lengthy process. You typically around 24 months. So if there's any public feedback or public comment, you are, as municipalities or residents of Wisconsin, you are allowed to submit public comments on these UDCC meetings. So this is a good way for anybody in the state or municipalities to provide feedback on what they're thinking about for the new code cycle. So once the UDCC has come up with their recommendations, there's an economic impact analysis and a public hearing as well. And then you have the rest of the steps. So overall, this usually takes about 30 months. You will see if that timeline sticks, but that's the idea. It is fairly lengthy, but again, there's multiple ways for people across the state to provide feedback on this process. To kind of build out this as well, actually, I wanted to say, so this is where we're actually providing some of that technical support. We are, as Slipstream, we're providing some support and resources to the UDCC, which is the Uniform Dwelling Code Council, who is debating these draft updates for the codes. And then the CBS, which is the Council on Building Sustainability, they report to the UDCC and DSPS, so we're providing technical support through this process as well. Let's go to the next slide. So at the start of this session, I talked about us providing a comprehensive baseline study across the state. So we can't know where we're going until we know where we are right now. So really what this is we're conducting a residential commercial multifamily baseline assessment of energy, best practices across the state and all of these buildings. But it's really to get an understanding of where are buildings being built? Are they already meeting your future energy codes? What kind of trends are we seeing? And how can municipalities benefit or learn from updated trends, building practices, codes, all the above. So again, this is just a way to get a general understanding of how houses and buildings and multifamilies and commercial buildings are being built across the state. We were about 25% completed with our residential baseline study, so our single family homes. And then a commercial and multifamily were about 10% complete. If we go to the next slide, we'll give a scope of what this really looks like. So this is our residential single family sampling plan. So where we want to conduct our single family site visits. So in this plan across the state, we have 28 counties represented, and really it's just a generalization of where the most construction of new homes is being built across the state. Generally they're within neighboring major city areas, as you can see. So it's pretty cool that we get to go across the state. I've been to multiple counties now. I live in Wausau, so for me, it's about a 3-hour drive to anywhere across the state. So it's been very cool to get into the southeast parts, the western parts of the state. So if anybody wants to participate, we'll have some links at the end of how, if there's any builders or court officials that want to discuss this, you'll have some links at the end. But yeah, so we have to visit approximately 120 homes across the state in a pre-installation phase and a final phase. So when the installation is visible inside of a building, and then as well as the final, so we can get our final numbers of specific things, which we'll talk about on the next slide. So some of those things that we're collecting when we are on site, specifically looking at what are the installation values and how are they installed, looking at appliances, the mechanical systems regarding heating, cooling, how are these buildings being ventilated, air tightness tests, even though it's not specifically required right now in Wisconsin, we want to see if these buildings are meeting current future air tightness requirements. And just like a general market trend, are these buildings being installed with anything that's cool, that's cutting edge, things that builders are just installing because of demand by customers and homeowners. So all those things we're taking into account when we are completing this baseline study. As an example, this multifamily building, we saw on this one, it was an affordable housing that had numerous solar panels at the top. So, yeah, we're documenting all these things. On the right slide, or on the right picture, you can see this is an air tightness test. This is a blower door test, and it's just designed to see how tight a building is. While our current code or UDC requirements don't have this specifically in the code, a future code cycle might. And we just want to get an idea of, are they already meeting these code requirements for air tightness? I think it's pretty cool because I get to test many homes and buildings across the state, yeah, just like I said, and it's interesting to see what kind of building construction practices are implementing it in specific results. So pretty cool. Let's go to the next slide, Allison. So we talked about the baseline study and how our technical support is helping the state, but let's talk about the Energy Code Technical Advisor Program. So this is a project or be a program that we're partnering with PSD, which is a consulting group. But the idea is that these ECTAs, or Energy Code Technical Advisors, are available to help across the state with anything that's energy code related. So they're providing job sites, the consultations, they're doing virtual visits, they're doing virtual trainings across the state regarding energy codes. Anything that a code official, a builder, designer, a municipality, if anybody has any questions or codes, the idea is that you can contact these representatives on the ECTA line, and they will give you a response within 24 to 48 hours on your specific code. They can't necessarily rule on something because that's just something that code officials and DSPS can do, but they can give a general interpretation of what they're thinking about with anything that is involving energy codes. The cool thing is that this program has been very successful. At the bottom line there, you can see we've had almost 16,000 interactions across the state. So it's online trainings. Right now we're doing field trainings regarding blower door tests. This is conferences, this is calls, this is builders in the field. So very cool. And anybody across the state can participate in this. So we'll have, actually, if we go to the next slide, we'll have that contact information right here. These are the members of the PSD staff. If you have any questions or concerns, these are their general emails. The Wisconsin Energy Code's website also has a way to contact them. Very cool guys, all of them. Yeah, Robbie Oakley is essentially the Wisconsin state contact person in the form of he's mainly in the field. But all of them can help out in any way. Very cool guys. And just a side note, they are all very good they're all very good at karaoke. They're very good. So if you ever want to hear some really good karaoke, these are the guys. Let's go to the next slide. So to kind of finish up here, we also have an energy code collaborative that is being that we've just started here across the state. So many states have some form of an energy code collaborative, mainly run by state or essentially nonprofits or rural groups. Wisconsin is now added to this state through this RECCE project. So we can see that in the Midwest now we are getting more representation. So let's go to the next slide just to describe what they are specifically doing. So through the Energy Code Collab, it's an idea, as I said at the very outset, is that how can we get stakeholders across the state in the same room with different opinions and get them to provide their feedback on what they're thinking about regarding energy codes. So many parts of the building process have to be represented. So this is builders, designers, consultants, if it's contractors regarding HVAC or plumbing or electrical. We're thinking about code officials, like I said. All of those pieces need to be have a voice when we're thinking about anything regarding the energy codes. So this is a way for them to get all of them together. We've had 2 meetings now. This is a quarterly meeting. If anybody wants to see when those are scheduled, again, that's on the Wisconsin Energy Codes website. And the final thing I wanted to add on this is that we're thinking about adding subcommittees. So if there's ways for the members the current members, if there's a way for them to kind of be broken up into specific subcommittees and they can tackle and then report back to the larger group as a whole. So this is starting to expand, and we're very excited about the process with this as well. And just as a project shout out, we have our Wisconsin Energy Codes where you can find everything that we're really thinking about and talking about today. It'll have our schedule of upcoming trainings for the ECTA program. There's ways to reach out to anybody on the project team. You'll have the resources that we were discussing today. Also that there's other events outside of the ECTA program as well will also be listed as needed. So that is where we're at with ours. So maybe this is a good time now, if Allison, if you want to facilitate some questions and answers.
Yeah, and I just went to the last slide here with our contact information. I think Zach provided links to the PDF version of the presentation too, if you want to look back at anything. But please feel free to reach out to any of us if you have questions or follow-ups. So yeah, I think now we'll go on to any questions that people have or discussion. I do see one in the chat here. Let's see. Has your group been working with the state legislature and getting codes updated? The state legislature, yeah, rejecting codes. Just kind of scanning this. Seems like your group would have more impact if the legislature would adopt code updates. Yeah, I don't know if Jeanette or John, you want to speak to that point at all.
John kind of covered it, and I'm happy to. So we are assisting in the code update, but what you're talking about probably is a little bit outside of what we can do. Right now, we're working within the process to update the code, but you are absolutely right. There's actually, and Jen, I don't think you actually mentioned this piece, but there is a court, the Supreme Court, uh, currently is taking up like a lawsuit from the governor's office towards a piece of the state legislature that was supposed to advance the commercial code. It's currently, I think they're about to decide on that in the next month. But you're absolutely right that uh, the process is not ideal. And what we're doing right now is working within the process that is currently created through through DSPS, through the Uniform Dwelling Code Council. If the commercial code were to start that process again, the process that John outlined, we would be involved in that. What we're trying to do is provide the technical assistance and the information that those that are making those decisions can use to make really solid decisions that save people money in their homes, businesses money, save businesses money in their buildings. So hopefully that answers your question, Carrie, and if happy to expand on that anymore.
Yeah, thank you, Jeanette.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, I don't think I see anything else in the chat right now, but does anyone have any other questions or things they would like to contribute, maybe going on in your own municipalities?
Mm.
Otherwise, Zach, maybe I'll hand it over to you too.
Yeah, can I actually
but
add
any-
one more thing about that?
Yeah,
Just
go
reading
ahead.
through the Carrie's question again. It's really interesting because, I think there is a bigger picture question that is outside of this scope, and that is the process for code adoption. There are some states that say for energy codes, if the national model code is updated, then the state is updated. Like there is legislation that can be changed. And that is probably a whole other discussion that we can have about how that legislation gets changed. But you're right. The state legislature could be doing something to make it an easier process.
Thanks, Jeanette. Yeah, maybe Zach, I'll hand it back to you. I don't see any other folks raising their hand for questions.
Yeah, we've got a couple more minutes if folks want to raise their hand. Andrea can unmute you. to ask a question live. Otherwise, the Q&A will be open before we wrap up here. But I do want to thank our panelists today for joining us. This is a topic that is important not only to your own municipal operations as you think about trying to reduce your own energy consumption and ultimately achieve the benefits of lower energy costs, but also in the space of working with your community and permitting and all that sort of thing. So I encourage you to follow these folks and their resources so you can stay engaged with the various initiatives that they're undertaking across the state. You know, Allison, League is proud to partner with Allison and their group. Many of our members, I think she said nearly 30 of them, either represent cities, towns, villages, or counties. And so feel free to reach out to those folks. But as a final reminder, the PDF slide deck will be available on the Food for Thought page. And we encourage you to join us at a future Food for Thought. These happen monthly, and the schedule and the topics are posted on the League's website as well as in the Municipality magazine. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us today. And with that, I will end this month's Food for Thought and thank our panelists one last time. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.